So, your brain can be kind of an asshole, am I right? An alternate title for this video is How to Stop Your Asshole Brain from Sabotaging Your Dog Adoption. So you're thinking about getting a dog. It's very exciting, also kind of overwhelming. You've got 8,000 things to think about. Where do you even begin? That's a rhetorical question. You begin here with this video, obviously. If you've done any Googling into how to prepare for a dog, you've probably found a million articles that all basically say the same thing. Research dog breeds, make sure you can afford it, make sure you have enough time, dog-proof your house, buy dog supplies. That's all great advice, very good advice. You should definitely follow it. But I think what's even more important than all that is taking time to mentally prepare. A lot of times when people get a dog and have a very hard time with the experience is because they didn't take into consideration what I'm about to tell you. So let's get right to it with the number one most important thing you need to know before you get a dog. And that is, getting a dog means building a relationship. The real adoption process does not begin until that dog is sitting in your living room, looking up at you going, "Who are you and why am I here?" Before we get a dog, we often visualize all the unconditional love and the joy that it will bring to our life to have our very own man's best friend, without also visualizing the hard work and the time it takes to get to that point. You and your dog will be strangers to each other. No matter how well the meet and greet at the shelter or the breeder or the rescue goes, there is still going to be an adjustment period during which time you and this dog have to learn how to live together. Life can get pretty crazy during this time. And it's entirely possible that outside of maybe a honeymoon phase during the first few days, you won't really feel much of a connection with this dog at all for a long time. Or the dog won't feel a connection with you. This tends to really freak people out. I get a lot of emails from people on day 3 or day 10 or day 14 or whatever with their new dog saying, "I don't love my dog doesn't love me, am I a terrible person?" You're not a terrible person, it's just how it goes. I mean, you wouldn't meet a new human and expect to be best friends on day 1. Getting to know, love, and trust somebody takes time. I have raised 5 dogs of my own now, and in 4 out of 5 cases, I really did not feel much of a bond at all until about 6 months in. The other case was Merlin, which was love at first sight. For me, not him. I mean, I was just a stranger to him. I still had to take the time to earn his trust. So with that as our main theme, let's look at some things you can expect. During the adjustment period, be prepared to devote ridiculous amounts of time and energy to training and socialization and constant supervision and management to prevent bad habits from forming. Not to mention all the fun stuff like playing and getting to know each other. This will probably take more time than you expect. It always does, especially if you have a puppy. The thing about puppy raising is that if you do it right, it takes up all of your time. For a few months, not forever, but raising a puppy into a well-adjusted adult is insanely time-consuming. The early weeks are a time of major change and disruption. We all have daily routines that a lot of the time we're not even aware of. A dog will take each one of those routines and shatter it into oblivion. You suddenly have to think about things that used to be second nature. You can't just rush out the door for work in the morning. You have to exercise and train the dog first. You can't just decide to leave the house for a few hours without figuring out how the dog is going to get out to pee. If you have small kids, you have to make sure your puppy doesn't bite them all the time. I think this routine disruption aspect is one of the sneaky things that really trips people up. I mean, if there's one thing the human brain hates, it's change. After like 3 days of having your life thrown upside down, your brain may slam on the brakes and say, "No, I want my life to go back to normal. Take this damn dog back to the pound so I can go back to watching Netflix." There's no easy way to deal with this. You just kind of have to push through it and just take the time to develop a new routine. Raising a puppy is hard work. It's a big responsibility. Blah, blah, blah. You know this. Everybody knows this. But it's one thing to know it, and it's another thing to know it. It's one of those things that you really can't understand until you've done it. Just be prepared for things to get intense. A young puppy could take weeks to finally sleep through the night for the first time, She might scream and cry every time you go to the bathroom. Your puppy could get pneumonia, of all things. Your adolescent dog might eat your entire couch. True stories, by the way. I will never forget the day that my precious baby River ate something that disagreed with her, and she puked all over the house. In the space of approximately 12 seconds, she had thrown up at least 5 times in all over the whole house. Dogs, man, they're just so great. Wherever there is stress in your life, a dog will amplify it. If you're going through any major life stressors already, like moving or going through a divorce or caring for a sick relative, a dog could make that stress worse. And the standard advice would be to hold off on getting a dog until your life is more stable, which is good advice, very responsible, very rational. However, I'm aware that life isn't always rational. Almost 10 years ago, during a point where my life was very chaotic and very busy, and I just was not really in a great position to get a new dog, I was at my volunteer job at an animal shelter, scrubbing some litter boxes, and I looked up just in time to see another volunteer walk past with this little blue merle border collie and or Australian shepherd. I'm still not sure. Either way, dream breeds for me. So I went and met this dog, and long story short, I realized, oh, you're everything I ever wanted. I am in so much trouble. So much trouble. And that dog went home with me. And that dog was Merlin. And it was very hard and, dare I say, disastrous for a while. But it ended up being one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Sometimes, when you're going through stressful life changes, a new dog is exactly what you need to get through it. If you think that might be the case for you, that's fine. You just have to be prepared for the possibility that things will get worse before they get better. Which brings me to my next point. Sometimes it sucks, and that's okay. The adjustment period with a new dog is a journey. And just like any worthwhile journey, it's not always fun. There will be moments that absolutely suck. And just because it sucks doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. This may be one of the best things you ever do. But to get to the good parts, you gotta make it through the less good parts. The best thing you can do is settle in for the long road ahead. This will make it easier to not get discouraged by day-to-day setbacks. If you'd like to learn more about the adjustment period and how to get through it, check out the links below. The next video in this series will be a little bit more practical, and we'll talk about how exactly to figure out what you want from your new dog. See you next time.